And we are live with the first Tech Talks of the spring quarter. Tom's got the laser show at the planetarium going on. Okay, so the first one for the year is cleaning up, tidying up your assignments page.
And this is not the only thing we'll be talking about cleaning up this spring.
We've got kind of a spring cleaning theme a little bit in some of our Tech Talks this quarter.
Do we have a theme? I don't know, it was intentional.
Not exactly, but it worked out.
It worked out that way. So we're gonna roll with it. So today we call this one the art of tidying up your assignments page. We wanted to call it other things that were funnier to us, but
Less
perhaps
appropriate.
not appropriate. So we're gonna call this the art of tidying up. We're only gonna be focusing on assignments pages or your assignments page today. So I'm going to share screen and we're gonna get rolling. Awesome. So everybody should be seeing my Canvas dashboard. I have the color overlays. I know some people really don't like that. That's a you problem, not a me problem, Nick. But that's okay.
Oh my.
Oh my.
I like it.
We're spicy today. We're a little salty. So the theme of this was, Canvas can be very messy, and Canvas can get progressively messy over time. In the sense that if you are duplicating things, importing things, somebody else does color overlays, there we go. If you're sort of using your Canvas course as an unintentional sandbox, if you're iterating in your Canvas course, things can get, like we said, very messy. So we're gonna focus on looking through a particular place where things often get messy, and talk about some best practices for cleaning up, particularly the assignments page. So I'm going to go ahead and click into a course. Oh, aren't they adorable? The cutest. I'm gonna wait for it to do its thing. So as you see over here, I have my assignments tab hidden. The link is not visible to students. That's a potential step for some folks. Just a note, like you can hide that if you want to. You don't have to hide that. So if you keep it visible to students, that is really a good reason to clean it up.
Yes.
If you're going to let students kind of go in there instead of having them navigate through the modules for assignments, you really want to have this looking its possible best, because the assignments page, as far as I'm concerned, is probably one of the messiest places that you can end up in Canvas. Files is maybe like the worst, but we're not even going to go there. We're not going to touch it. We're going to stay in assignments. So the reason that we think of, or that I think of assignments as one of the most mess-prone spaces, is because if you're copying other courses into your course, so think shared courses or previous iterations of your course, there can be a lot of leftover artifacts that might not show up in your perfectly designed modules, but they're going to show up here in your assignments. They're hiding, they're lurking. And so we don't want anything lurking. So, that's screen, Caleb's screen. All right, so let's talk about what's in there. So when you go into your assignments, like I've said, things that can live in there are unpublished assignments, imported assignments, old versions of things, and they can be grouped in a lot of different ways. So you have this groups option here, or this group option here. Sorry, I'm closing that, there we go. They can just kind of get cluttered and messy. So we want to clean it up. So just a quick thing that I often find needs to be cleaned up, or is kind of the reason for cleaning things up. If you are in your modules, and you have an assignment and you delete the assignment from your modules, did you delete the assignment?
Did not.
Because you cannot delete an assignment from your modules. You can only remove them. And so this is where I find a lot of my instructors are like, but I got rid of it. It's still showing up in gradebook because you didn't get rid of it. So
and what's worse, if it's published, then the students are still seeing it in their calendar and to-do list, and you may have thought you got rid of it.
And you didn't. You didn't. You thought, and you didn't. So if you're going to think about your assignments page, remember that it can be kind of like a graveyard. You think it's gone, it's not. So the first thing that I do when I go in to clean my assignments page is I look in here and I think, does everything belong here? Right now, this is a very neatly designed piece of information here, but it might not be. For example, this is actually really only a 6-week course, but I still have this one in here from week 7, doesn't exist anymore. I wanted to get rid of it. Go ahead and start deleting things. Remember though, that if you accidentally delete things, you can always go home. And in the URL, of course, you can just do /undelete. /undelete. So if you think you've deleted something that you didn't mean to delete, and I just told you to delete it, and you're like, Cassie, why did you tell me to do that? Remember, you can go back and you can fix it. All right, so let me get back into assignments though. All right, so go into assignments, clean things up, get rid of things that don't need to be there. The other thing that you can be doing in your assignments page is grouping assignments. This is what this little button does. A lot of folks kind of ignore this button because you're like, well, what does it do? Let's talk about what it does. This will create groups for your assignments that are whatever you want them to be. So let's say that you just want discussions. You want to just see that. You would type that in, you would click save. You can see that I already have discussion boards here. This is how I like to use my assignment groups. These make sense to me. They're grouped by type. So I've got my discussion boards, I've got my writing exercises, I've got a final design project. So this is a really nice scaffolded project.
Yeah.
And so I want to be able to see all of its parts together because it combined is worth a certain number of points for the course. And I want to be able to see how it fits. I also want to be able to see things like its dates, right? Where it lives, that sort of thing.
Well, and it might also be nice to align that with how you are describing your assignments in your syllabus. If your syllabus says there are 6 discussions, 3
Yeah.
papers, etc., it might be nice to align your assignment groups in the same way.
Absolutely. It should be, one of the things we talk a lot about in design is things that are replicated across different places. So if your syllabus says you have 6, your modules should have 6, your assignment should have 6, everything should 6. That's for you. Everything should be replicated in some way. So assignment groups are a great way to do this. This is also really helpful if you decide to weight your groups. So if you are thinking about grading, we're going to talk a lot about gradebook later on. But if you click the 3 dots here at the top of this, you can weight your assignment groups, percentages. You can't really do that if you've got a bunch of assignment groups that are like, imported and blah, blah, blah. You've got all of these different things. It's not super clear. You don't know, or you do know, but you don't know. So I like to keep that as clean as possible so that when I'm looking at my assignment groups, I'm not looking at detritus and being like, oh, there's extra stuff here. How does that fit? Does it fit? Oh, it doesn't fit. So I need to not put that there. And as Tom put in chat, the dreaded empty assignment groups, let's not talk about them. If you have an assignment group that's empty, delete it.
Get rid of the
It's
assignment
okay, get rid of it. It's okay. So this is really spring cleaning. As you can see too, I had something in there that told me, I call this ungraded tasks. That tells me if I'm going to weight my assignment groups, hey, don't weight that because you didn't grade it. So it's really just a way for you as a user to see what you've got going and make sure that it aligns with how you've told your students that you're going to be grading the course. So I'm just going to save that really quickly. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what's kind of lingering in here and how this is a question about design. This is really like, what is the benefit of doing this kind of work in the assignments, in your assignments page? So when your assignments are organized, grouped, labeled, right? They have a place where they go. You can kind of see things really clearly. It kind of creates this bird's eye view that I like to have when I'm teaching, when I'm designing. So for example, this course we know has weekly assignments. I scroll down to these writing exercises here. And you can see, as long as you've done your assignments, right? You put in their due dates, that sort of thing. You can see that these are nicely spaced. All right, so I'm looking at this and I'm just doing kind of spot checks before the course starts, and I see I have weekly assignments. Okay, that's a week. Oh, good, 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 good. Look at me. Like I did that right. It's a nice quick spot check. I can see that these assignments are all very similar to each other. And I can see that, yep, I made them all worth 60 points. If there was one in here that was worth 30 points, I'd want to know why. Why did I do that? What's going on? Did I forget to change something? This is great if you are copying courses and you're changing your point values or something like that. It's nice to be able to see this just laid out for you. Really nice, really clean. So go me, I did a great thing. But what if, say, your shiny new organization tells you that something is wrong? April 3rd to April 8th is not 7 days, Cassie. What happened? It's probably meant to have been due on the 1st. So what do I need to do? My shiny organization tells me that something's wrong. I'm panicking a little bit. What do I need to do? Well, how many folks, and I know there's not a lot of folks in there, have clicked on this button, this 3 dots over here? Just a show of hands. I never clicked on it before I did this. When I was an instructor, I ignored that because I was afraid of it. I didn't know what it did. But now that I'm in the assignments page and things are looking pretty clean, here's a good place to also do some spring cleaning. So I see something's wrong. I'm going to click on edit assignment dates. And we're going to probably talk about this again at some point because it's nice to just, you know, talk about it again. So you see all of your assignments. Where are they? They're all here. Look at how pretty they are. Oh,
if you collapse your sidebar navigation, you should get like the full width, or you may have to refresh as well, but because it's not giving you the grid view because it's too narrow.
My screen is too small.
Because the table is super nice to be able to see everything all at once, unless they've messed with the viewport on this.
I hope not. If they change something. Do I have a bigger screen?
No. Do you have yours? Are you zoomed in with your browser at all?
Aha,
There we go.
zoomed out. All right.
That's what we
So
want to see.
fun fact,
That's so much nicer.
this is what we want you to see. Usually I'm working on a really big monitor. I'm working on my laptop screen now, but if you see this big chunky mess, go ahead and zoom out on your screen. And then you get this really nice, like Tom was saying, this really nice grid view. This is a nice thing where that, again, shows you how things are organized. I see that something's wrong in here. I can just go ahead and edit this one individually. That feels nice.
And you didn't have to go into the edit box or anything.
Nope, I didn't have to do any of that. I just had to fix it. It's kind of a nice little spot where you can shift things. This is also a place where you can batch edit. Batch edit was something that I was a little bit afraid of, but I'm just going to show you how it works. So if you want to use it, your mileage may vary. You can, for example, choose all of your discussion boards. I'll choose all of my discussion boards. I have 7 of them. I'm going to click batch edit, and you can remove the dates, which is again really nice if you are copying things from another course and you just want to get rid of some stuff and you just want to start fresh like me. I like to do this with a calendar. Or say you've decided in the middle of your term, I made these due on Mondays, but my students really need that extra day. They need that Tuesday. Just bump it up and click OK. So now I've moved all of my discussion boards up. I've shifted my dates. It's done. It's nice. I'm happy. I'm feeling good. I'm gonna save it.
Yeah, that's great. I've shown this to some instructors and it blows their mind every time because it's such a time saver compared to manually editing one assignment at a time, like many people do.
Like I still do. I still like it.
Sometimes you need to,
Sometimes you need to have your
but
hands.
all you have to do is change a bunch of dates all at once. This is definitely the way to do it.
But this is a great way to clean up your dates, your due dates for things. I like to be able to see that change as it's happening. I like to be able to see it in comparison to other things. So here I am comparing my discussion boards to one another, feeling really good that they're all a week apart. Thinking about how they're close to or within the same module or time frame as my design exercises. Again, feeling really good about that. Feeling comfortable with how things are looking. So this is one of the big benefits to me of really spending some time in assignments, digging around, seeing what it looks like, seeing what it feels like, knowing that when I'm doing this, it also is going to have an effect for later me. So this is me now. Future me, though, is maybe probably going to want to look at my gradebook. So we're not going to talk a lot about gradebook here, because we're going to spend way more time in gradebook. But if you've organized your stuff, right, if you've got your things sort of put together neatly, this is going to change also how you experience your gradebook. Your gradebook is gonna look kind of nice, like, ooh, look, all my discussion boards, pretty, pretty, pretty. My design exercises are really neat, super clean, super decluttered. But more importantly, your filters work a little bit better. So if you click apply filters, and this was another thing that I didn't do as an instructor very often. I was kind of afraid of it. I didn't know what it did. If you click apply filters, now you've got these gorgeous new filters that are your assignment groups. You can obviously do modules, so you can sort of look at just module 1, just module 2. But with the assignment groups that we created, if I just want to look at writing exercises, sorry, this is looking at one screen and not the other. If I just want to look at writing exercises, I click on that, I've toggled it. Here I'm just looking at writing exercises. I'll say that this is a nice thing for grading that I wish that I had done when I was an instructor, because this is a great way to see how things are going, kind of in a specific type of assignment. So for example, I see that my students, if I had a real course here, I might see that my students' assignment grades are kind of dropping off on this particular assignment, right? I can maybe see a pattern here by looking at the grade book. I can see that students aren't turning them in, maybe. I can see that students really started strong and then fell off. Or I can see that students really struggled at the beginning and then they got better at it. Maybe that's a question of how I want to design that, right? Do I want to change how I've built out the assignment so students can get it from the get-go as opposed to having to learn it, right? This is just kind of a nice thing for me to use the filters for.
Yeah, and if you're not looking at an filtered view and you're seeing all assignments in one place, you may not be able to notice those patterns.
So this is all about pattern recognition. You can remove the filter when you're done. If you just want to look at, so I'm just thinking like, what did I do? I had my final design project. I just want to see what that looks like, see if maybe that's the only thing I need to grade. I know that my grade book is clean. I don't want to be scrolling around. I just want to see these two things, okay?
Well, and the other thing that it cleans up is at the end of your grade book where it shows how students have scored within a category or within a group.
It's nice to just kind of see things looking neat. So that's really how I like to use this, why I like to use it. I like to, like I said, I like to have my assignments page looking at a glance. That's probably my favorite thing about it, is that if you spend the time early on, or if you're remediating and going back and fixing things, it's nice to be able to go back and see, what did I expect of my students? How did I group things together? Did I make sure that everything's worth the same amount? Did I make particular pedagogical decisions around grading? What does that look like? And of course, for students too, there's nothing extra in there that they can see. So that was sort of the thing we talked about at the beginning. If you've got a bunch of stuff in your assignments that you don't remember that you have. So if you had, things that you gave your last group of students, but you don't want this group of students to take and you just left it there. If you have it in your assignments and you have it as published and it's got a due date on it, they're gonna see it. And so this is a good way to make sure that there's nothing extra. I think it's kind of it's not like you're viewing it as a student, but you're thinking about what are the potential pitfalls for a student? Like what could they see that I don't need them to see? Now there's nothing extra in there.
Well, that reminds me of a case where I saw an instructor had an assignment group where it was like, you know, future assignments, things that they're planning on doing at some point. All of it was unpublished, but then in the students' version of the gradebook, they see that there's this assignment group. And then they're like, well, what is future assignments? And then instructor starts getting all these questions. So even having extra assignment groups that you're not intending on using can mess with the student gradebook and what they see.
One last thing about
And you see it in your grade book too. It's just a vacant column at the very at the end, right?
which, you know, can lead to panic. One last thing about students and sort of what they see, I'm gonna view as a student here. I'm gonna go into my grades. And so some students use this, some students don't. By default, I'm pretty sure it's set as due date, this arrange by. But if you created some assignment groups and you want to have the same conversation with a student, like, hey, I noticed that your discussion boards have really been dropping off. I can see that, right? So imagine that this student started out really well, and then by the end of the term, things are going really badly. A student can see this for themselves too and say, you know, maybe I need to spend more time on this thing. Students can arrange this, you know, using arrange by however they want. But if you've done it if you've created really nice assignment groups for them, they can also see what we were seeing in the grade book. It just looks a little different for them. So this is another thing that we can offer to our students that allows them to see things like, how do we have things weighted? Right? How am I doing in the course? What might I need to do a little bit differently? We've made this option work for them, whereas otherwise it kind of would have just been this thing that doesn't have any meaning. We've given it some meaning. So that is all I have to give for cleaning up your assignment page. Other folks might have tips and tricks. I haven't been looking at the chat. I'm sorry. Too many screens all at once. But I'm gonna stop sharing and say I am completely done speaking and open the floor.
So Jennifer mentioned something in the chat about unchecking course summary in the syllabus. And that is actually, that's a tool that I use pretty regularly to clean up stuff. Like I don't turn it off, I turn it on. And then you can see things that aren't dated. You can see things that are dated for 3 years ago. Really quickly, because they just sort of like float to the top or the bottom of that list, and it's really kind of a good check to make sure that everything that you have kept in your course isn't actually included in the temporal flow of the course. Yeah.
The temporal flow of the course.
Ooh, you know what? Do you still have your thing open? Would you want to share your screen again?
Yeah, I can.
Just for a second, something that I noticed that we didn't touch on that kind of relates to what Tom just said of double checking the flow of everything.
Screen share.
Just share it. I think I just don't have it. Yeah, I think that, there we
There you
go. So if you go back into assignments, basically student
Sorry,
view.
I'm student view. Get out of there. My hamburger menu. I hide it.
Underneath every assignment, it shows if it is currently listed in a module or not.
Yes.
So like discussion board 1 is in the week 1 module. That ungraded task is not in a module right now,
Dun, dun, dun.
which means if you have assignments hidden and students are just looking at the module, they
They're
can't
not
see
gonna
that
see it.
assignment.
Yep.
So that would be a good thing to double check to make sure you don't have any
Mm.
ghost assignments that are turned on, part of the grade book, but may not be visible in the modules for students.
And that happens a lot.
And for that one in particular, it's kind of an interesting thing because it doesn't have a due date. So if it weren't in modules, you have assignments hidden. And if you hide the syllabus course summary, you have this assignment that's kind of hanging out, waiting for something. That one doesn't have any points associated with it anyway. But like if it did, and it were in a graded group, like there's no like good way for a student to get to it unless you link to it in off of a content page or something like that. And it just becomes this sort of like rogue orphan thing.
So if it's not showing a module title underneath it, you might wanna make sure that
See where it
you're
lives.
doing what you want to do with that.
Piggybacking off that, I mean, we pay attention to how Cassie has labeled the actual modules themselves. They allow us to make that beautiful flow of assignments, so it makes it so much easier. Yes, that's week 1, week 2, week 3. It all has its own internal logic because of the way you've labeled things.
Yeah.
So label your modules well too.
Yeah.
Jennifer had another comment in the chat, which I think is worth mentioning.
Mhm.
If you are using a publisher integration like
Mhm.
Pearson or something, and it is importing assignments from their system into your Canvas course, those may be going into their own assignment groups. I think each publisher kind of does it a little bit differently, so those might be called different things, but
absolutely.
you should be aware that that can happen.
And you should be looking.
Yes.
You should be in your assignments page. I think if I had anything to say, I was talking to an instructor earlier this week. There are some folks like who will build in modules and then never go over here. That's fine until, right, until
Right.
you need to clean something up.
We love building in modules.
Yeah, we love that.
But if you don't look at your assignments regularly, go look at your assignments.
Yeah, you can build in modules, but go back here and clean up what's in the closet.
Awesome. Well, that takes us to 1:30, so unless we have any other questions or comments or concerns, I think that about does it for today. Hopefully that was a helpful one.
Yeah, go clean your closets.
Go clean your closet, go do some spring cleaning. We will see you next week, where we will talk about course settings.
Ooh.
All of the course settings, every single one of them, I have a plan to talk about every single one of them and talk about which ones you should and should not mess with and why you may want to, so stay tuned for that one next week. Alright, I'm ending the stream.
Bye all.